Try again, Chewy. Can you hear me now? I didn't realise I had such a delicate voice. Can we please welcome my chaplain, Father Frank, who will be saying a prayer this evening for us. Thank you, Father.
The reading is taken from St. Paul's letter to Romans. You must all obey the governing authorities. Since all government comes from God, the civil authorities were appointed by God, and so anyone who resists authority is rebelling against God's decision, and such an act is bound to be punished. Let us pray. God, a loving Father, we thank you for giving us this life. We believe that all authorities come from you, so that whatever we do, whatever authorities we possess, is your gift. We pray that we take good decisions for us and for the people who trust us, so that whatever we do, whatever we discuss, we bring glory to you and goodness to the people. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. It is with great sadness that I report the passing of Maureen Harris. Maureen worked in the Revenues and Benefits team as a revenue and payment officer and was part of the team that transferred in via Serco. Although her service with the council dates back to the 1st of October 2008. We are joined today by members of Maureen's family. I would like to invite members to join me in a minute's silence in memory of Maureen. Thank you. Please be seated.
I will take coming up.
Thank you, Father. Okay. Well, is there anybody in the public gallery? Yeah, there is. Welcome members, those in the public gallery and those watching on live stream, wherever you may be. I will now hand over to Rachel Edwards, Head of Constitutional Services, to go through some of the housekeeping that we all need to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. To all present, please ensure that all mobile phones are set to silent. In the event of an evacuation, please exit through the doors on both sides of the chamber, following council staff to the assembly point. As per normal rules, if you wish to speak, please ensure that you raise your hand and you'll be invited to address the meeting. The Mayor has confirmed that he would like members to stand, if able to, when addressing the chamber. All votes will be taken via the electronic voting system this evening. If a recorded vote is requested, this will be taken in the normal way. There is your points of document. If you wish to raise a point, please raise the pink document and address the Mayor accordingly, stating which point you are raising. Finally, I would like to remind members that this meeting is being live streamed, so please make sure that when you speak, you are using your microphone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We've had an issue with page numbering of the agenda for the meeting that was published. A new link was issued to members rectifying that issue. I hope you are all happy that you have it. Can't you hear me? Is that better? Did you get that, or do I repeat it? Yeah? You all happy you've now understand what's going on and the right order and all the rest of it? Okay. Right. Are there any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have apologies from Councillor Imtiaz Ali, Councillor Mohammed Granzeb, Councillor Jason McNally, Councillor John Howard, Councillor Nick Thorburn, and Councillor Chris Wiggin. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any others? Thank you. Agenda item 2, are there any declarations of interest from members and officers this evening which are not already recorded separately on their individual register of interests? No? Thank you. Agenda item 3, I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting held on the 20th of May, which includes the Mayor making and annual council. Do I have a seconder?
I'm happy to do that for you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. There's no objection. I'll take that as agreed then. Thank you. Agenda item 4, Mayor's announcements. I've nothing else to add to the document that you've already received. I'm happy to take questions after the meeting if there's anything you wish to know. Thank you. Agenda item 5, Leaders' announcement. Councillor Dennis Jones, I understand that you wish to make announcements this evening. You've got 5 minutes and group leaders will respond afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by welcoming Neil MacArthur. Neil is our new Director of Legal and Governance, and also Mike Robinson. Mike is our Interim Public Health Director to the Council. Neil has almost 25 years of experience as a lawyer, many of those working for local authorities. He is now the Council's Principal Legal Advisor and Statutory Monitoring Officer, responsible for ensuring officers and councillors act lawfully and maintain high standards of conduct and governance. Mike has worked as Director of Public Health in several local authorities, most recently in London. He has also continued in clinical practice and currently serves as an out-of-hours GP. Mike will also play an essential role in the separation of public health services across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, so that we once again have our own city public health team going live in this September. I've met with both Neil and Mike, and I'm sure they will be brilliant additions to our corporate leadership team. Welcome to you both. Moving on, growth is at the top of our agenda and items for the next 2 years. And on this note, my colleague and friend Nick Thorburn attended the City Council's annual Developers Forum last week. The event was attended by investors, developers, property agents, and businesses who have bought and developed key sites within our city or plan to in the future. Growth and regeneration is a key priority for our city. Projects like the Station Quarter, the next phase of our university, and the redevelopment of key sites across the whole of our city will improve the lives of all our residents. It will make it easier for people to travel, gain skills, and access employment with higher wages, boosting the living standards for more than ever before. It's essential that we keep a good working relationship with the developers who are making this possible, ensure that they not only want to invest in the city, but also get what we want for our residents in return. On the subject of our city thriving, I'm also delighted that Peterborough has emerged as the top city, for a change, in Britain for small business employment, according to research by one of Europe's largest small business lenders, Iwilca. We're already achieving so much thanks to our city's entrepreneurial spirit and our excellent location, making it easier for both homegrown and other small and medium businesses to thrive. In further good news, I'm pleased to announce that 3 Peterborough parks have retained the prestigious Green Flag Award, marking them out as some of the best open spaces in the country. Central Park, Itter Park and Manor Farm Park in Eye have all achieved the sought-after accolade. Central Park has now held that award for 22 years running. I'd also like to thank the team at Aragon for the maintenance work and the volunteer groups who also support these sites. Last week, our Children's Services had a local government association review of corporate parenting practices, something dear to my heart, as you may be aware. The review team met with senior leaders, members, foster carers, health, housing and commissioning partners, and most importantly, the young people in our care. They also attended the Corporate Parenting Committee meeting. The Local Government Association review is a peer challenge, it's not an inspection. The review team provide us with constructive feedback and recommendations, as well as examples of effective corporate parenting from other councils. In addition, our Children's Services has adopted an innovative approach to best practice called Family Valued, which is designed to transform outcomes for children and centres and building on maintaining positive relationship. It puts the child and their experience at the heart of everything we do and is underpinned by a belief in family strengths and supporting them to find solutions. The rollout of Family Valued has begun and will continue over the coming weeks. Last but by no means least, Helpwait Special Educational Needs School has received a highly commended award at the recent Eastern Echo Awards in recognition of its recently constructed Jubilee building. Once a hub for antisocial behaviour, the area is now used to provide support for children between 5 and 19 years of age with special educational needs in Peterborough. It hosts 5 classrooms, along with sensory rooms, therapy rooms, and more, funded by the
Councillor,
council.
please sum up.
One of my priorities for the coming 2 years is to ensure that improvements for all residents, in particular our children and young people. So it fills me with pride to see this site highly commended. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Group leaders have agreed to extend the time that you all have to respond to a maximum of 2 minutes. So will Councillor Harper like to respond?
Yes, I would, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jones. Peterborough First very much welcome Neil and Mike to the corporate leadership team and wish them all the very best of success in their new roles. It is indeed great news to see our parks maintain their green flag standards. Cultural and leisure activities are a vital part of our city right now. And as it continues to grow, even more important. And providing nice places for people to relax and enjoy are vital going forward for their mental health. My colleagues and I fully understand the huge challenges regarding our children's services offer and the amount of time and hard work that is being put in and the effort that's being made to improve. Peterborough First members pledge to work with all involved to enable the best future and best outcomes for our children. Finally, Mr. Mayor, we absolutely support the continued growth of our city, but this needs to go hand in hand with sustainability and infrastructure, particularly in regards to our roads, cycleways, schools, health offering, including hospital capacity and doctor and dentist provision. In line with our university, we need to be determined in our drive to attract more high quality, high paid employment to our city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I rise also to welcome Neil and Mike, both who've had the opportunity to speak with, not in great detail, but so far they've hit the ground running and seem to be blending well with the CLT and the rest of the team here in the council. Growth, as Councillor Harper finished, was always a big focus on this administration. And I will congratulate Dennis on continuing that, because as the improvement panel will tell you in the report, it is absolutely vital. But I also agree it's got to be the right kind of growth in the right areas. So, for example, in Castor and Aylesworth, they don't want any growth, none at all. They think it's a bad idea. So we have to be careful how we message these things, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what that actually means. But without it, we won't survive. This council would have been in government intervention 2 or 3 years ago had I not set on the path of what basically Peterborough First were carrying on, and now indeed Labour, because as you take the reins of power, you find the straitjacket fits quite snugly, no matter who is the leader or who is controlling the finances. And that will remain the same for some time. So I'm pleased to see that it is continuing. On the growth forum, by the way, or the event that was held recently, I have already remarked to Adrian for the leaders' benefit that all leaders should be invited to that forum as a matter of course, because we all have a say in the future of the city. And of course, we all support improvements in our children's services. Who would say anything different? So yes, of course, we will continue to do what we can to support the city. And also well done to Scott in terms of, he had a lot to do in the Helpwait School, taking that project forward, and I'm pleased that it has got the recognition and the award. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome indeed to Neil and Mike. Both roles come with significant challenges, so their arrival is much needed. May I wish you a speedy integration into the new positions and look forward to working with you. Really interesting to see a continued agenda for growth for the city and all the advantages that brings in terms of financial influx, but also a range of opportunities for our residents. We do, however, need to make sure that this growth is properly backed up with investment in our infrastructure and local services. I'm glad to see that the Green Flag Award scheme continues to produce results from the hard work of our arrogant employees. Therefore, thankfully, we were persuaded by our previous mayor that rather than withdrawing from the scheme to save costs, we could still meet the standards while still producing cost savings, and these awards show that this has been achieved. Heartening to see our children's services are already turning a corner, and that the new approach is putting us back where we need to be. Well done also to Healthwait School. I would also like to commend the Cathedral for another great exhibition landing just in time for the school holidays. There have been so many great exhibitions recently, and you're left thinking how they can possibly do, what are they going to do next? And yet they keep coming up with the goods. So please do visit, if not with family and friends, then just make some time to visit yourselves. Talking of the school holidays, I'd also like to pay tribute to the Family Hubs events over the summer. Some truly exciting stuff. Sadly, it seems availability is sold out now, but please remember that there's still our City Museum and Flag Fen that you can visit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Right on 2 minutes. Well done. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Green Group would also like to welcome Neil and Mike to the corporate leadership team, and we hope that they have a productive and fulfilling time with us in their roles. The Greens also welcome the leaders' comments on growth and regeneration, but particularly the comments on prosperity. There is no point in growth without prosperity and employment for local residents. We would also push for developments to be environmentally sustainable, and that regeneration is not only focused on the big ticket items such as the Station Quarter, but also in areas of the city that have been neglected for some time now. Where there are larger scale developments, the Greens wish to ensure that they benefit new residents, as well as listening to the needs of current residents and the local community. It is great news that 3 Peterborough parks have retained the prestigious Green Flag Award. It would be even better to see other local parks gaining that award, so hopefully that learning can be shared. It is also reassuring that we have taken part in a children's service peer review, and we hope that this challenge and feedback can only strengthen our corporate parenting practice here in Peterborough. It is also very timely that the housing strategy has been brought to tonight's meeting. As the Green Group know, we urgently need to see progress towards the building and development of socially affordable homes in the city, and that those homes also remain in the community forever. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we move on then to agenda item 6, questions with notice by members of the public. There are 2 questions submitted by members of the public to this meeting, and question 1 is from Nairi Ambarcin. I'm not sure whether I got that right, but that's how I would pronounce it in Italian.
You were close enough. I'll let you off.
Thank you.
Sorry, this is really long because when I wrote it, it's different when you're writing it, isn't it? I'll try and keep it short. It's about the fencing in of the green open space in Warrington. Who provided the advice that planning permission wasn't required, and what's the basis for this? We residents are really concerned that this is a material change of use and a planning process should happen for the loss of such a large space. It's going to change the character of the area and affect so many people. And in September 2022, the council's own briefing document confirmed the area is dual use, and it also confirmed that planning permission would be required. So question 1 is, what's changed, I guess?
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The advice was given by the Director of Planning and the Interim Director of Legal and Governance and Monitoring Officer following a call from the former council leader, Councillor Mohammed for a review. The conclusions of that review, officers' recommendations and the rationale for those recommendations were set out in the Cabinet report, which states the principal planning use of Area C is educational land. As this area of land has never been enclosed, members of the public have also used the land. However, that has not changed the principal use of Area C. It is argued by Save Warrington Fields that people have informally used the land for a prolonged period of time equates to a material change of the land, which makes it public open space. This is not correct. And in fact, any informal public use of the land would be ancillary to the principal educational use. The public has been able to gain access to the land because it has not been fenced. It must be noted, therefore, that the principal use of Area C has not changed. No planning permission is required because arguably no change of use is either sought or has already occurred. This is reiterated in legal advice obtained by the Council in November 2021. The decision made by Cabinet on July 16th has now been called in. This is a key element of the scrutiny function, which allows members to review and execute an executive decision that has been made but not yet implemented. The meeting is scheduled for Friday the 2nd at 10 AM in the Council chamber of the Town Hall. This meeting will also be live streamed.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Ms Amberchin, do you have a supplementary?
Shall I ask my second? I put 2 questions in and then I get a supplementary, don't I? Is that cool?
You can try it.
So the second question is, why has the Academy Trust been given preferential access to council officers and councillors in this matter to fence off the open space in Warrington? And why was the same access not given to Warrington Neighbourhood Council and the rest of councillors?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor. The land in question is designated for education purposes and not public open space. The council has been in discussions with the school regarding the academisation process and its requirements to deliver the curriculum. The council has also been in discussion with councillors, including the ward members and the neighbourhood council, along with other local residents, and their views have been put forward and given due consideration. Following the recent review, the council has chosen to support the school so that it may operate as effectively as possible. The Cabinet report states that the leadership of the Academy has made it clear to the Council they wish for students to be able to make use of the playing fields to enable them to undertake physical recreation. This cannot be fulfilled whilst the playing fields remain unfenced, and there are safeguarding concerns. The Council, in its role as the local education authority, wishes to support the Academy to ensure that pupils are able to undertake their full educational curriculum.
Thank you, Councillor. Ms Amberton, do you have another question? Would you please ask it?
Thank you. I'm not here because the school need a fence. I'm here because they're asking for a blank cheque and asking for too much without justification. There is a win-win compromise here. Am I a nutter for being the only one who seems to be able to see that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because this subject has been called in by council members, I want to respond to your reply accurately, and I will do so in writing.
Do you have a supplementary to that?
I'm only kidding, nothing more.
You're happy, yeah? Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Let's move on then. Agenda item 7 are petitions. Those presenting petitions this evening will have 1 minute to outline request. Now, are there any petitions? No? Oh, we'll move on. Agenda item 8A to 8C, questions on notice, 30 minutes. There have been 11 questions submitted to members this evening, to Cabinet members, and 1 question has been submitted to the Chair of Climate Change and Environment Scrutiny Committee. All questions have been published on the Council website and will be taken as read. Question 1 from Councillor Heather Skipstead. Where are you, Heather? There you are. When you're ready.
Are we taking it as read?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on then. Where are we? Shabil. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Jamil, yeah. Councillor Jamil, would you like to respond, please?
I certainly would. Mr. Mayor, I thank Councillor Skipstead for her important question. I would all like to take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to the volunteers who dedicate their own time to help make our city the best place it can be. The council takes its responsibility in terms of grounds maintenance and litter picking extremely seriously, and members will be aware that we as a council recently allocated new funding to undertake regular maintenance of the national highways running through our city. However, work in areas such as these, including our parkways, requires formal traffic management and sometimes lane closures, which means we are limited as to the time that we can spend litter picking. This means that regrettably, we will not always be able to clear all of the litter on some of the occasions. Whilst we are grateful for the support of residents, we strongly discourage litter picking in areas where it is not safe to do so, including verges of busy dual carriageway roads where speeds are normally up to 70 miles an hour. However, since taking over this portfolio, I've asked our officers to work with our local volunteer groups to review the current service level agreements for grounds maintenance and waste management with a view to identifying ways in which they can be improved. Any recommendations from this will be shared with Council in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Councillor Skipstead, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, I do. Yeah, thank you for your response, Councillor Jamil. So the question wasn't so much about being on the highways and on the parkways, but just the areas where there's bush clearance, that when the litter pickers are out, when the bushes are cut back, all this litter is left in the bushes in all sorts of areas. My question really was whether the council could work together, coordinate the litter picking that they undertake together with the bush clearance at the same time. I've also heard reports of grass cutting where the litter is also mashed and they need to pick the litter before they cut the grass. So coordination between the two departments, the litter picking and the could that be coordinated in some way? Thank you.
Councillor, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I certainly would. As I've said, since taking over this portfolio, I've asked officers to work with these groups to see how we can get our officers, our companies working with volunteers to see if we can come up with a happy medium that satisfies both the work that they do and the work that we do, and it complements each other so we can have a win-win situation every time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Question 2 from Councillor Peter Hiller. Councillor Jones, would you like to respond to the question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I crave your indulgence because I may need to refer to notes because I'm speaking on behalf of Nick Thulborn. I'd like to sit down just so that I can be on point, if that's okay. Good evening, Councillor, and thank you for your question. The Towns Fund programme continues to be a high priority for the city, and we work towards delivering a range of exciting projects. The Vine is the flagship Towns Funds project, and good progress continues to be made towards realising its delivery. Cabinet resolved to appoint a main contractor to deliver the library element of that scheme, and as a result, design work is at advanced stage. We expect that elements of the scheme will be completed by March 2026. The goods shed at Fletton Quays, the other part of the Vine project, is now in the council's ownership, and negotiations are at an advanced stage for a food hall operator to purchase and refurbish the building. Cabinet is expected to be asked to formally approve this in the foreseeable future. The Signet Bridge also continues to progress with a live planning application, advanced negotiations with neighbouring landowners to secure cooperation during the construction and ongoing work to ensure the bridge remains within its budget. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hiller, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Although he's not here tonight, I thank Councillor Thorborn for his response, Mr. Mayor, orated, I have to say, beautifully by the leader of the council. So I thank you for that. Dropped in at the last minute. Although some of the original 8 schemes envisaged have not materialised, it's good to see the new Labour administration is continuing with the work started a few years ago by others to the benefit of the residents and visitors to our city. Members will be aware the original home for the Vine was TK Maxx, and the new look buildings bought by the council a couple of years ago for a widely reported at the time £4 million plus expenses. I'd just like an answer to a question, and I know other members have asked similar questions a number of times over the last year or so with various responses. In Councillor Thorborn's absence, can the leader perhaps confirm that the officers have now sold these buildings as planned? I asked this at the last Towns Fund board meeting and was confidently assured
Councillor, you've had your minute.
Right. Okay. Is the building sold or isn't it sold? Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Hiller, for your supplementary question. To my knowledge, it is, but I will check and confirm that with you in writing to make sure. I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Next question 3. Would Councillor Dennis Jones like to respond to the question from Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, thank you for your question, Councillor Allen, and a very good evening to you. To my certain knowledge, Nick has asked officers to undertake a review to identify what actions may be taken to increase the provision of public toilets in the city. Our financial challenges, well known to all, mean that this review must consider how this could be funded, and will also make sure that all public toilets, including those provided by organisations other than the council, can be widely advertised. This is also an opportune moment to remind everyone, if I may, that the council operates the excellent Carhaven public toilets at the rear of the town hall, and that the Queensgate Centre provides public toilets on level 1. The council also supported Queensgate to secure the funding to install its recently opened Changing Places facility, and our officers continue to work with the cathedral to support them in their plans to create new facilities in the cathedral grounds. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for answering on behalf of Councillor Thurborn. I think that we do need to do something about public toilets in our city. I think we are failing the public. And in my initial question, you saw that I acknowledge that fact that not everybody wants to use a bar or a cafe to use the loo. There are people coming to our city that demand the use of toilets, and so they should. I think an area we should be cognizant of is St. Peter's Arcade, which is a wasted wasteland. In that location is a toilet which is not used. It's a disabled toilet, and I think it's called an accessible toilet now. It's not changing paces, but it's a wasted space of toilet that could be put to use. I know we're fearful of people's activities in these toilets, but I'm not beyond the ken of man to get that sorted out with some kind of surveillance. And also the condition of St. Peter's Arcade, and I'll rope that into this question, needs addressing because it is awful. I know you, Mr. Mayor, had plans to do something with it.
You've had your minute.
Thank you, but I managed to get you in there, didn't I? And we need to do something with St. Peter's Arcade, including the toilet. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Would Councillor Jones like to respond?
I will indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question is, could we reopen St. Peter's Arcade toilets? And I am aware that Councillor Thorborn has asked officers to look into this again. In fact, the whole area of St. Peter's Arcade, which is obviously the subject of issues in the not too distant past. As members may be aware that historically face regular issues in this location, including vandalism and behaviour that puts our workforce at risk. If we are to reopen the facility, it's likely that access would need to be restricted to minimise issues. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We move on to question 4 from Councillor Mohammed Farouk. Would Councillor Jones like to answer this one as well?
It'd be my pleasure, if you like. Thank you for stepping in for Councillor Habson's after Councillor Farouk. And good evening, and thank you for your question, which is an excellent one for a fledgling administration such as ours. Put simply, we're learning. Having taken over the reins from your good selves at the last full council held on the 20th of May, eight and a half weeks ago, I'm sure that you will allow us a period of grace for the whole of those 8 weeks, given that 6 weeks of those were given over to a general election. Not so much time to get our feet under the proverbial table, I'm sure you'll agree. As all members are aware, we have a great training programme to support us all, and the Cabinet has also received extra support from officers, external training providers, and our trade body, the Local Government Association. We also have peer mentors to support us on the journey. What I will say, in my Cabinet's defence, is it's a bit like an iceberg, and most of the members hold down full-time jobs, and the public don't see the hard work that's put into those jobs from our members, getting to grips with complex portfolios, which is supported by an excellent team of officers. We will continue to be supported by officers and the LGA going forward. Thank you, Councillor Farouk, and get well soon, Councillor Howard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. Do you have a supplementary?
I don't, or Councillor Howard haven't passed me the supplementary, but the only thing I was going to suggest to the leader was to appoint mentors for every cabinet member, which you have confirmed that you have done so. So I think that would go a long way.
Forgive me for, sorry, what was that about?
Have mentors for every cabinet member. Perhaps that would go a long way.
That's a kind gesture, Mr. Mayor, and that is actually in train for the cabinet members. The LGA have been very supportive, and we are doing exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 5 from Councillor Steve Allen. Councillor Jones, would you like to answer that one as well?
And some have greatness thrust upon them. The council completely, thank you, Councillor Allen, for your question. The council completely understands the importance of the regional pool. I'm sure we all do. And our residents and regret the unfortunate circumstances that has led to it reaching the end of its serviceable life. It gave us an incredible 46 years of excellent provision to the city, and we're committed to doing all we can to replace it at the earliest opportunity, with the wholehearted support from our new MP, Andrew Pakes. Officers are currently working with a leisure specialist to fully scope out the options for a replacement pool. This will be presented to Cabinet in the autumn, where decisions will be made about the best solution to meet the needs of our city. Following the next Cabinet meeting, further information will be made available confirming next steps and associated timescales depending on the preferred option. In relation to the existing structure, works are underway to prepare for the demolition of the pool. This includes a number of site surveys to determine scope and to disconnect the utility services as required. Contractors are appointed and we expect the actual demolition work to commence in late November of this year, concluding in April of next year. Thank you, Councillor Allen.
Thank you. Councillor Allen, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Jones, your busy boy tonight. Thank you for the comprehensive response. We all want to see a public pool in this city. I did mention in my question, will we likely to have a 50-metre pool so that we can cater for sporting attendees rather than tazzing across to the small town of Corby? I think that we should have a facility matching the aspirations of our larger city. And also, can we get a hydrotherapy pool in there? A couple of questions that I would like answered, and I'm sure the Chamber would in both cases. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to answer that?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is our aim and our aspiration, but as Councillor Fitzgerald, the straitjacket fits all of us, so we will do everything that we can to ensure that we do have those facilities as soon and as practicably as we can. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And question 6 from Councillor Saqib Farouk. Councillor Quayum, would you like to respond to the question?
Thank you, Mr. Cavaliere Celeste, which means Mr. Mayor in Italian, was agreed beforehand. I'd like to thank Councillor Howard for his question, and I'd like to wish him the best of health, but thank you very much, Councillor Farouk, for putting it forward. So I thank you for your question, and I understand your concern about the impact of the budget cut on the Dementia Centre and the people living with dementia. Let me assure you that the Council is committed to looking after the most vulnerable in our society. The budget cut was necessary to cope with economic challenges and fiscal constraints. It does not mean we are reducing the quality of the services the Dementia Centre offers. On the contrary, we are working closely with the Centre to find ways to improve its efficiency and effectiveness to enable the service to continue. We are also exploring alternative sources of funding and partnership opportunities across the public sector to ensure the sustainability and resilience of the Dementia Centre. We believe that by working together and co-producing the new service, we can overcome the difficulties and continue to deliver the best outcomes for the people living with dementia and their families. Thank you.
Councillor Farouk, I assume, because Councillor Howard's not here. Would you like to ask a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On behalf of Councillor Howard, I have a supplementary. Can I please ask or strongly urge the Cabinet member to reverse this decision and find the budget saving elsewhere so that we can protect our most vulnerable?
Councillor, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Cavaliere Celeste. I'd like to thank you for your question. The answer is that as an authority, we have a moral obligation to look after society as a whole, as well as looking after the individual's needs as well. And in this case, it is a vulnerable group of individuals that we have looked after. I'd like to state at the offset that whilst inheriting this situation, this was brought to the attention from the 9th of October last year up until now 4 times at subsequent FSWG meetings and also Cabinet meetings as well. So if there was any change that needed to be done, it could have been done at that time. However, I take as Cabinet member complete accountability and responsibility of this decision alongside the officers, and we're committed to ensure in the co-designing of this service that it will be a fit-for-purpose service that serves those service users well, and if not, even better, within the commercial envelope available. So I'd like to bring our attention to the fact that we have a moral obligation to look after society as a whole, as well as those group of individuals, and I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Question 7 then. Councillor Fitzgerald is from Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Quayle, would you like to answer that as well?
Thank you, Cavaliere Celeste. I'd like to thank Councillor Fitzgerald for his question. The redesign of the day services, Councillor Fitzgerald, was not suggested by any individual, but by a collective decision of the previous Cabinet based on careful assessment of the financial situation and the needs of our community. You will be aware, as a member of the FSWG, that as part of this item, the Dementia Resource Centre was in scope. The new administration did not intend to avoid public scrutiny, but rather to ensure transparency and accountability. We are aware of the potential impact of the budget cut on the Dementia Centre and the people who access it. This is why we're co-producing the service with the Alzheimer's Society, to ensure it is in the best interest to meet the needs of that vulnerable group of people within the resource envelope available. We are also exploring alternative sources of funding and partnership opportunities across the public sector to ensure the sustainability and the resilience of the Dementia Centre. We believe that by working together and co-producing the new service, we can overcome the difficulties and continue to deliver the best outcomes for the people living with dementia and their families. The Council is committed to preventative services and continues to fund services in excess of 500,000 to support vulnerable people and to provide information, advice, guidance and signposting them, their families and carers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you have a supplement?
I do, Mr. Mayor, and I rise to give that. So look, very, very quickly, I'm not going to point the finger of blame at Councillor Qayyum. I'm pointing at all of us. Let me tell you, before I was removed as leader, I opposed this budget cut. And yes, it was in scope, but it would not have gone through. It's gone through in disguise as redesign of day services, not a cut in the budget to the Dementia Resource Centre. So it's all our fault for passing that budget at the time. And I'm not going to single out Saqib. It just went through because there was turmoil at the time. So it's not true to say. What I will not do is put you under the pressure of reversing the budget cut. But what I would ask you to do, until you find the additional funding, keep the budget in place, because these are vulnerable people. And I know it was me that started this project, so of course I would be against it. So I would urge you to not hurry. And I know there's a September deadline, but a lot of these people didn't know about this. Nobody knew about it until it came up recently. So you need to rethink it because you're now in charge.
Can I respond to that?
Yes,
thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. I think it's incredibly important to understand. I actually thank you for the fact that it has resonated not just with yourself, and I think that you can take credit for the fact that you started this in 2014, this service. So it has been a service that has indeed, we acknowledge the fact that it has brought benefit to those very vulnerable group of people. And I think the fear around this, that it is going to stop in any way or impact on the users. And here I'd like to give credit to our officers who have worked around the clock in order to try and salvage this service with great difficulty. But we have currently talks in place with the ICB, and in answering your question about extending it, we have a wonderful co-production brief that is in place that is looking at different aspects on how we can deliver this service. Obviously, with different pockets of funding, working with stakeholders, with an active consultation plan in place with the Dementia Resource Centre, service users and their families. I'm very optimistic, and in fact, I'd like to openly welcome anybody here that it really does care about this service to speak to me, engage in dialogue, come and let's visit the centre and engage in those service users alongside them to make sure that We all have a duty of care towards these vulnerable people. Safeguarding is everybody's responsibility, and I would be very happy to work with anyone to make sure that we can give the best possible service to the users of the Dementia Resource Centre. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Okay, then we move on to question number 8 from Councillor Farid. And would Councillor Cole like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I would like to thank Councillor Fred for his question. Youth services have been decimated nationally because of the previous government's policy of austerity. Many councils have withdrawn from directly delivered youth provision as they simply can no longer afford to provide these essential services. We have felt the effect here in Peterborough, where there are many vulnerable young people and families. Consequently, we have seen an increase in knife crime and poorer mental health amongst our young people. I agree with my colleague's assertion that young people need youth workers and activities in place across the city. Therefore, this administration plans to bring forward proposals to explore the development of a youth zone in the city for young people. In addition, senior officers are leading some work with partners and our youth MPs to understand the appetite for development of a citywide youth partnership. For our most vulnerable young people, a new early help strategy is currently being developed for the city. There is a range of groups for young people across the city that are delivered by our partner agencies, including the voluntary and community sector. The Council continues to support young people who require targeted or specialist interventions through its early help and adolescent offer. This includes one-to-one and group work sessions on a range of issues. More recently, using a grant from the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, we have been able to create a small team of serious youth violence workers and are partnering a local charity to deliver detached youth work in the city and are creating a trusted adult youth work scheme with ARU University.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Farid, have you got a supplementary?
Thank you, Councillor Cole. No, I don't. That's fine. Thank you.
You're okay, are you? Thank you very much. We'll move on then. We've got a question from Councillor Day, and Councillor Jones will respond if you would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank God. And I'd like to thank you for your question, Councillor Day. We are acutely aware of the growing demand for genuinely affordable housing in Peterborough from households on the housing register and in temporary accommodation. Highlighting the challenges we face and the work we have to do to meet the housing needs and tackle homelessness and the steps we are taking to address them. This administration is supportive of building council homes to boost the supply of social housing in Peterborough. Can you not hear me?
No, it's fine.
Okay. All right. I won't start again though. This administration is supportive of building council houses to boost the supply of social housing in Peterborough. However, we recognise that just like councils up and down the country, our ongoing financial challenges constrain our ability to pursue this option at this time. We will continue to work closely with officers to monitor and review the feasibility of the case for building council housing, and in the meantime, we will continue to work closely with our housing association partners to maximise the supply of affordable rented housing being delivered, that we can alleviate the pressure on temporary accommodation and the housing register. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to ask a supplementary, Councillor?
Yes, please. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for your answer. And it's really pleasing to hear that council homes or socially affordable homes will be on the agenda. You've mentioned that it's not on the time frame at the moment. I do know that there are a number of people waiting, well, 2,500 people waiting, and some have been waiting for a very long time. Do we know what the timescales might be? And I am going to ask some questions around the housing strategy a bit later as well, but do we know when those timescales may be? I know you've alluded to in the future at some point.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, as we're going to talk about the housing strategy later, it does actually set out delivery of 1,250 affordable homes between 2023 and 2028, which is an average of 250 new affordable homes per year. In 2023-24, there was 260 new homes built that were affordable rent and shared ownership. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, thank you. Okay, then. So we move on then to agenda item 8D, questions on notice. And there are no questions submitted by members to the combined authority representatives. So we then move on to item 9, executive and committee recommendations to council. We are being asked to consider one recommendation from Cabinet this evening, the Peterborough Housing Strategy 2024-2029. And I understand that Councillor Jones would like to move the recommendations.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to present the Peterborough Housing Strategy 2024-2029. It is universally accepted that this country has a housing crisis, and Peterborough is no different. While the relative affordability of housing is better in the city than many other places, good quality housing remains out of reach of too many local people. This housing strategy sets out the council housing agenda, and we will work with partners and ensure that residents have access to a wide range of good quality housing, from high value homes to affordable homes. This housing strategy recognises the importance of achieving the right balance and diversity within Peterborough's housing stock. Access to housing is truly affordable across all tenures is key to addressing housing needs and preventing homelessness, and is a priority for this housing strategy. It sets out our response to the increasing numbers of households facing severe financial pressures who are at risk of homelessness, and the actions we will take to prevent homelessness where possible through an early help approach. Whilst growth is a priority in Peterborough, raising the quality of the existing housing stock is also vital. The housing strategy recognises that making sure we will make the best use of existing homes by improving standards and increasing energy efficiency plays a key role in improving the health and well-being of our residents. This strategy identifies the different groups within the community and have different accommodating needs. It describes the way we will support those who wish to remain living independently in their own homes, as well as cater for those who need more specialist accommodation. This housing strategy forms part of the evidence base of the emerging local plan, which is due to be subject to public consultation this autumn. It is important that our policies and strategies align, and to that end, the housing strategy team works very closely with the planners. Members' input has been actively sought and welcomed throughout the process of preparing this housing strategy, together with external expertise, which have given us a well-rounded understanding of the issues and opportunities facing the city's housing. This housing strategy is committed to being a living strategy, rather than a document that is adopted and consigned to a shelf. It will be monitored and regularly reviewed throughout its lifespan. An annual report will be presented to Scrutiny Committee that sets out performance against delivery of the priorities and the actions in the document. It will report on new initiatives coming forward that support delivery of the strategy and outline any new risks or opportunities at both national and local levels that impact our ability to deliver our housing agenda. The development of this strategy document has now been scrutinised by 3 administrations and has received positive endorsement at all stages of the governance process. I commend the strategy to you and move the recommendation on page 17 of the report packs. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did read through this, and I have to say that I'm a bit astounded with the fact that there's no mention of our veterans.
Councillor, we haven't got to the debate yet.
Oh, sorry, I thought we had.
That's okay, no problem. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Jones?
Yes, I do. It's Councillor Farouk.
Councillor Farouk.
Mr. Mayor, happy to second it and reserve my right to speak.
Okay. To speak later, yeah? Fair enough. Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I say, if you read what the Confederation of Service Charities say, local authorities in England are planning to take account of veterans in their housing and homeless planning and strategies. Of the 343 local authorities in England, 252 do not include veterans in their housing strategies. And despite clear guidance within the Homeless Code of Guidance, 176 fail to consider the needs of veterans in their homelessness strategies, which is also to do with the housing strategy. I'm just a little bit concerned that there's no mention of veterans. Can you explain that one to me, please?
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Peterborough has used to have an aspiration to be the environmental capital of the UK. We don't seem to be talking much about that these days, but it is an ambition of the corporate strategy and the council policy more widely to get the council and the city to net zero carbon, although there is a lack of clarity about this to be achieved for the city. For instance, that the UK government target and that of the CPCA is for 2050, but the PCC's climate policy passed in 2019 says 2030, and our local energy plan, a local area energy plan says 2040. Housing is one of the main contributors to carbon emissions, and in terms of energy, the UK has some of the leakiest housing in Europe. It is recognised in the housing strategy that we need to tackle this issue in order to have a housing stock that is sustainable for the future. But other than a reference to the local energy plan, there is no specific detail in the document about how, in particular, improved insulation on either new or current housing stock is going to be achieved. The Liberal Democrats want the council to be ambitious in making our homes, both new and existing ones, energy efficient. In the recent general election, we campaigned for all new housing to be net zero carbon with immediate effect. The technology and experience exists for this to happen. It just requires the political will. It's not just about tackling climate change. It's about lower energy bills for local residents too. In my ward, there is a street of zero carbon housing built on a trial some 10 years ago, and we haven't built anything like that since. We would like to see all new houses in Peterborough to be net zero carbon, with the highest possible standards of insulation, where appropriate, solar panels on every roof. Having this level of ambition will require not just our housing strategy, but a crucial new local plan to be ambitious too. The new government is showing promising early signs that they have promised sweeping reforms to the national policy, planning policy framework to increase housing numbers across the country, encourage building to the highest environmental standards. Current building guidance, which restricts renewable energy developments and discourages councils from being more ambitious than current building regulations, is likely to be swept away by this new government. So I think we can pass this housing strategy as an important first step, as it can be easily improved on later if we need to. But it would be a mistake to press on with our new local plan until we know the changes to the national policy on housing standards the new government is going to propose. So a postponement of 6 months or so would be a sensible option.
Minutes.
Pressing ahead with our new local
Councillor,
plan.
can you conclude, please?
I will do. I'm really there. Pressing ahead with a new local plan on a basis of old and outdated government planning guidance is likely to give us a local plan that is not sufficiently ambitious, or a local plan that needs to go through another expensive and time-consuming major revision. Thank you.
Thank you. You stole 25 seconds. I'll take it off next time. I believe Councillor Fox wants to speak. Judy Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just make a comment regarding page 22, 4.3.4, priority 4, how we will meet the need for accessible and adapted housing, supported accommodation, and housing for specific groups to promote health and wellbeing. Particularly in the second paragraph, securing the provision of wheelchair accessible new homes through planning obligations, and working with developers and affordable housing providers to maximise delivery of affordable rented tenure wheelchair homes to meet the needs of disabled households on the housing register. I'm really happy to see this. We are finding that there are more and more people wanted rented accommodation that are in wheelchairs, and they cannot get them. So I'm really happy to see this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Who's next? Councillor Fitzgerald, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll rise to make a few comments on this document. Much of it relies heavily on government now, and in fact, Councillor Hogg is correct to cite changes in policy, whether they be current or in the future. If we are to believe the Labour government's policy of 1.5 million homes across the UK in the next parliamentary term, there are already some 18,000 behind at 5,700 a week, and I think it's something like 3 weeks. So I can't see how those targets are going to be made. What I would say in Peterborough, and this is an updated iteration of a strategy we already have, and we've always had one, we've punched well above our weight in terms of the delivery of houses. There could always be more social housing, but we must not forget the work of Cross Keys Homes, who we appointed as our provider when we did a stock transfer, who've done an excellent job and continue to provide housing across all tenures, including socially rented and indeed buy-to-let, sorry, not buy-to-let, the shared ownership, I should say. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in terms of housing numbers. And I think our local plan, and Councillor Hiller might want to comment, we've always delivered on the numbers, and our local plan reflects that what we put in it is what we were told to put in, but that might change again, that the targets become more. So we'll be forced to look for land and deliver in places where they may not be so possible. Also, I'd like to just perhaps ask the leader of the council that he might go to Angela Rayner and ask that where are the 90,000 people that they've got in the asylum system at the moment? If they fast track them all into the local economies, including Peterborough, where are those people going to live? So there are lots of pressure on the housing market, and I don't see any answers to those acute problems, including our own temporary accommodation. There are a lot of pressures going on. So I welcome the report in terms of its as an update, but it brings with it many, many questions. I wouldn't delay the process, as Councillor Hogg is suggesting, on the local plan, because I trust our officers are fleet of foot enough to cope with any legislation changes that might come down the road. And to be honest, many of them are not news. Whether they can be implemented by the new government is yet to be seen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Skipstead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a question regarding priority 3, which includes about HMOs. Now, in the ward I'm councillor, there's still HMOs are a major problem. Alton was built, was constructed in the 70s, and there are far too many cars. There's a huge parking problems because of the many. I believe it's one of the wards with the highest number of HMOs. So, looking at the trial that's going to be rolled out or is rolling out across 4 wards, my question would be, what will happen after that trial? Is it the intention to roll this out beyond that, and how will this work? Because we certainly have a problem in other areas where this is causing a huge issue for residents, not only the parking, antisocial behaviour, many issues. So I'd just like to know what the plans are for the future regarding HMOs. Thank you.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jones, for introducing the report. I'd just like to echo the comments made by Councillor Fox about disabled people, which will come as no surprise. But I wanted to add to that my concern about building houses is not the same as building communities. And I live in Alton Northgate. So Alton Northgate must be nearly 10 years since it's been finished, still not been adopted by the council. And this is a huge problem for people that live there. We don't have super fast broadband for one, because City Fibre won't dig in Alton Northgate until it has been finished. And we're reliant on developers to make improvements, very simple things, getting the trees cut back, for example. And residents are becoming so frustrated, they're moving away. And we don't want that, because we'll never build community until people feel that this is somewhere that they can settle and when they're well looked after, because they're paying council tax and they're also paying these service charges as well. So I welcome this report, but I would like, as we build these houses and build these communities, to make sure that the council please adopts them as soon as possible so that people stay and build lives here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It states in the report on page 49 the issue that we're all acutely aware of, the overuse of temporary accommodation and B&B accommodation, and how that the council is building a toolkit of incentives for landlords in the private rented sector to support a move on from temporary accommodation. It doesn't really detail in the report what the toolkit approach consists of or what it looks like, so it'll be interesting to get some more detail around that. And then also on page 49, it talks about maximising the supply of affordable housing. And as Councillor Jones already stated, there'll be delivery of a range of size and type dwellings that can meet the most pressing housing needs, with 1,250 affordable homes between 2023 and 28. Something that we wanted to point out as Greens, that there's already 2,500 people who are waiting for housing. This number maybe will only increase. So I know that's an ambitious target, but is it ambitious enough to house those people that are waiting for homes? And another issue we sort of pulled out of the report was, how are we going to manage the use of private landlords, particularly with those potentially not maintaining properties? That's an issue that's been really difficult to overcome in the past. And then finally, we know that there is a distinct lack of social homes and affordable homes. And there's a question we've got around, will they remain available for rental by the local community? Will they be given up as right to buy properties in the future? Obviously, we await some of the planning policy frameworks from national governments, but we know that the sale of social homes and council homes have been issues in the past, and of course the current housing crisis. So there's just some comments from myself and us on the strategy, but we do welcome that we have a strategy now. So thank you for presenting the document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some comments, observations, if I may. I think it's a good rounded document. It certainly addresses affordable housing, homelessness, supported accommodation, older people, and that's where I come to my point. Older people live in houses that probably are too large for them in many cases, but they're stuck there because of nothing available to them that's more suitable. In my own ward of Ithorny Newborough, there are several estates that back in the day, bungalows were built, Bungalow Estate in Eye being one of them. And I think that many retirees would welcome that kind of housing. I know developers don't want to do it because it's not so profitable as a 2 or 3 story house with the same footprint, of course. But maybe we could apply a nudge, to use David Cameron's phrase, to get developers to look at bungalows as something that's needed with an ageing population, and an ageing population that will then free up houses for the younger generation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Elsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'm not going to go over the points that have already been raised. I generally agree with most of them. What I would say about this strategy is that it's not just about building new properties. It's about making use of what we've got. In the ward that I represent in Wittering, I have at least 4 streets where every house is empty and are being sold off very cheaply to developers who are putting a lick of paint and a new set of windows in and then selling them at massive profit. If we're to look at the 2,500 people that are currently on our waiting lists, why aren't we looking at diversifying and buying these properties and making them affordable houses for people to rent? It's not just about building new houses. It's about thinking smartly, and it's about making use of what's already in Peterborough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? No? Good. Let's move on then. Councillor Jones, no, it's Councillor Farouk, isn't it? Councillor Farouk, do you want to speak now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and happy to second this housing strategy 2024-2029. First of all, can I thank all the officers for working really hard? It's been in the process for a year. And since it's been in the process for a year, I thank Conservative administration, previous administration, for starting the work on it. And then I thank Councillor Hillard as a cabinet member to bringing in the draft housing strategy policy back in the spring, and we are happy to support that. As I mentioned in the cabinet meeting then, the housing strategy, Mr. Mayor, is not just about delivering houses, but it defines and makes up our communities and gives identity to our city. as a well-balanced housing strategy such as ours, which caters for students, families, retired, single dwellings, social housing, and for care leavers and veterans, ensures that our city grows uniformly and everyone's catered for. With all this in mind, all these factors in mind and in place, I would like all the members to support the housing strategy 2024-2029. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones, did you want to sum up now?
Yes, thank you very much for all your comments and questions that you raised on that. Just a couple that I'll come back to people on is that Councillor Fox, the veterans are given preferential treatment. We do have an armed forces personnel section in there, and we will look to make sure that the armed forces champion works with them as well. We have lots of strategies in there, including net zero, in terms of all the different aspects that we want to do to make it holistic for the city moving forward. And so this is where the strategy sits. And of course, as I've already mentioned, this is where now we have to bring it alive. It has to fit. It has to be fit for purpose for the city today and what we actually are going to do in terms of its growth. So it's fit for purpose for all the different people and the different areas that we need to look at. So I would ask for your support in this, and the fact that obviously it's a start, and then we will actually unfold it and involve people as we go through that process as well to bring it actually into a practical setting. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is that agreed, or do we move to the vote? Agreed. Thank you very much. Then we move on to agenda item 10. Is in relation to the record of executive decisions detailed on pages 89 to 100 of your agenda pack. The leader will introduce this item, and any questions will be answered by the leader unless he refers them to another member. I would remind councillors that they should ask questions on the decisions in the reports. All questions should be relevant to the decision itself. Should I feel that any preamble is unnecessarily long, I will instruct councillors to ask their questions immediately. Can members please note that once I have moved on, the questions will not be accepted for previous pages. Councillor Dennis Jones, would you please introduce the item?
I think you've done it brilliantly, Mr. Mayor. Will you please continue?
I will take each page in turn. And could members please to refer to the title or the reference number of the decisions when asking a question? And if you are able, please stand. Okay, page 89. Page 90. Councillor Hogg.
Yeah, my question relates to the sale of 441 Lincoln Road. I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to repeat the debacle of when the market was demolished and the tenants from the market were basically homeless for a period of time. So I just wanted to make sure that are we going to make sure that the tenants that are currently in that property are safely moved to their new premises before such time as it's sold off, that it's not sold off and they're left with nowhere to go?
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to ask Councillor Amjad Iqbal to take this one, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. A notice has been served on the current tenants, and we've offered several sites to the Symmetrons that we felt very suitable but have been rejected. We can't keep offering, and we know that we are actively seeking space that is available on the open market and have an agent retained. We have concluded the assessment to relocate the other services to the Crescent. This is a cost to undertake the accommodating works and will see the Crescent Library, which is underused, remodeled to accommodate the memory clinic and DRC. The sale of 441 Lincoln Road is agreed, and we've agreed a delayed completion by March 2025 to allow time to manage the relocation. Should the relocation be delayed beyond that, we have the option to either push back the sale or agree a short-term lease between the tenants and the new owner. In addition to the capital receipt, this deal will also generate revenue saving. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions on page 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. Is that 98, Councillor? 99. Please ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It relates to the item at the bottom of page 99, the decision to enter into an agreement with RECAP. My question is that given the officer recommendation over the last year and several years previous was that we cease our relationship with RECAP because it was Cambridgeshire centric and we got no value out of it, and it was put up as a cost saving this year, our membership of a £50,000 a year saving. I would like to know why the Cabinet member thought it was the prudent decision to then re-enter into an agreement with the partners of RECAP when the officer recommendation is that we cease working with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to ask Councillor Jamil to pick this up, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's certainly not what my the information given to me by officers. What I will do, I will take the question away and I will provide the councillor with a written answer, but it's definitely not what he was asking.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Elsey.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but the £50,000 a year saving is public document, so I don't understand why there's any confusion over that. Our membership was being ceased because we were saving £50,000 a year as a consequence.
You were not satisfied with Councillor Jamil's offer to get back to you with a written explanation?
Mr. Mayor, I believe that's all I'm going to get. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I believe that's all I'm going to get. So that's fine.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Jamil?
As I've said, that I will get back because that's certainly not my
written explanation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will give
Councillor Hogg.
So I've got a question on the same item.
On the same page.
Yeah, on the same page. On the same item. So it just relates to. So my understanding was the sticking point was that we were essentially paying the same amount as the county, and that we officers were saying that essentially we should be paying the same as the district councils. So is that in fact now the case? Have we got a reduction in the amount that we are paying into this scheme, or have we renewed under the old scheme? If the Cabinet member could answer that question, that would be really good.
Councillor Jones.
I'm going to ask Councillor Jamil to pick this up, please.
Fair enough.
My understanding was that it was all down to economies of scale and us working together got us the best offer, best deal. But if you're not satisfied, I can look back and then I'll come back to you as well. But my understanding was that working with other authorities, we actually got a good deal out of this, which was better than the one before.
I'm happy with a written response.
Happy with that? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for completeness, I'd like the Cabinet member to also make clear whether the 50,000 that Councillor Elsey refers to was in the budget as a saving, and thus if we've renewed it, what's happened to that saving?
Thank you. Councillor Jones.
Councillor Jamil, please, Mr. Mayor.
Certainly, it will be in written answer to all councillors.
Thank you. Any further questions on page 99? Page 100. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is referring to the item Citizens Advice Bureau Peterborough Grant 2425. Can I just ask the relevant portfolio holder whether that is predicated by the Citizens Advice Bureau remaining at Central Library, which is soon to be the new premises, the Vine? If I could have an answer on that, I'd be very grateful. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
And hand that over to Councillor Alison Jones, if I may, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. I cannot confirm actually where it will be, but I can actually find out for you and come back to you. As you know, there's various changes going on in the library at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on then. Agenda item 11 is in relation to the record of combined authority decisions made since last meeting. I'll refer any questions to the relevant combined authority representative. Otherwise, the same rules will apply as the previous item. Members, please, decisions can be found in your agenda paper pack at pages 101 to 104, and I will take each meeting in turn, and members, please refer the title of the decision when you're asking a question. Okay, so page 101, page 102, page 103, no takers. Great. Page 104 is blank anyway, so there's nothing on it. So, do you want me to generate something, do you, Councillor? I'll try that later. Okay, so then moves on to motions of notice. We have received one notice of motion from Councillor Hogg. And would you like to move your motion, Councillor, as set out in the additional information pack?
Indeed, Mr. Mayor, and I feel the feeling in the room is for me to put up and shut up. So I will be as brief as I possibly can. I think it's fairly straightforward. It's laid out quite clearly. We've had discussions at group leaders and across party. I've got a seconder from Peterborough First. Essentially, all this is saying, why is it that we have a regime where these hygiene standards are done judiciously by officers, but essentially the shops are not obliged to put to show what their hygiene rating is. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, when you kind of come out of whatever premises that you've been spending the last few hours looking for some sustenance, I think it's unlikely that people are going to go onto the PCC website to find out what the hygiene rating of the particular establishment that they find themselves at. However, if there is a certificate on the door, and you know, in a lot of places in the city, there are a number of establishments that are quite close to each other, and you can make a choice straight away to go, actually, this has only got 1 star, maybe I shouldn't be coming here because I will regret it in the morning. I won't go into details. So it is currently legislation that all food establishments in Wales and Northern Ireland have to have this displayed prominently for the members of the public to be able to see. And I think it's something that we should have here in England, and Scotland can have it as well if they want. Essentially, it's all about choice. But I also think what it does do is it focuses the mind on these establishments to take this certification seriously, so that we have better hygiene standards, which means that we have less. It's a win-win for all. I will stop gabbling on and leave it with that for now, and leave it to my seconder to either reserve his right or speak as you wish.
Thank you. You made up your 25 seconds that time. Can I call on Councillor Mohammed Farouk, who's going to second this, I believe, and either speak now or reserve his right to speak later.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to second this, and in fact, I'll take a couple of minutes and speak on this. Mr. Mayor, as someone who ran a chain of restaurants in the city, and I'm sure you will vouch for this because you and your family were often regular diners in one of the restaurants on a Wednesday or a Thursday evening, without me revealing too much details about you. But I want to talk a little bit further on that. Since I left the trade, most people like yourself always say, oh, Farouk, it's not the same as what it used to be. The place is not the same as what it was. So then I ask myself, what did I offer that others or the new owners don't? And I think you could break it down to the fact that I offer that confidence and trust, which we built together. Equally, Mr. Mayor, scores on doors give that confidence to consumers. Diners can happily sit and dine knowing fully well that their food is cooked and served in a most clean and hygiene way possible. Businesses follow a professional standard system called Safer Food, Better Business, which ensures that every process they do, every way they cook is followed professionally. And Mr. Mayor, this is a win-win situation for both parties, for the consumer and the seller. Peterborough is very good already. Large percentage of organizations are either 4 or 5 star. Mr. Mayor, with all these benefits in mind and experience in the field, I have no hesitation in requesting all members to vote for this very good motion proposed by Councillor Christian Hugg. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any speakers to the motion? One way or the other? No? Is that agreed then? Fantastic, thank you. Right then, item 13, 13A is the report of Peterborough City Council Independent Improvement and Assurance Panel. And I would now like to propose suspending Standing Order 1611 for item 13A to allow both the Chief Executive and Andrew Flockhart of the Improvement Panel to address our council. Would somebody be prepared to second that? Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Okay. Councillor Dennis Jones? No, we're not doing that, are we? We are dealing with 13A.
I think I was due to second it, Mr. Mayor, but you know, it's all right. The most important, get you in the playground. Well, I think I'm more than happy to support it, and whoever reserve their right to speak, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, as long as it's agreed, anyway, that's the important thing. Any speakers? Councillor? Councillor Jones first, and then Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, and Andrew, welcome to this council, and I hope you've enjoyed your time with us. I think one of the things is it would be interesting to have your observations over. There has been a great deal of change over the past 12 months, locally, regionally, and nationally, and I value your thoughts on what you have seen, and as a consequence, how you should see that we would move it forward. Certainly in your area of expertise in governance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If you'll excuse me, councillors, I'm told we've got to deal with the proposal for the acceptance of the standing order. So just give me a second so that we can get that right.
That's great.
Yeah.
To move.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm told that we need to ask Councillor Dennis Jones to move the recommendations for the report of Peterborough City Council Independent Assurance and Improvement Panel. Would you move the proposal, please, Councillor?
I so move, Councillor.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Fitzgerald, I understand you're going to second it.
I am, but I'll reserve my right to speak afterwards.
Excellent. Right. We go back to where we were before then. Do we have any speakers? Councillor Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question's on page 115, and it talks about the peer mentor and mentee relationships for group leaders and groups. And it also talks about reviewing that peer support and establishing whether it's time to continue or whether there should be a broader emphasis on all member training and development. I just wanted to say, from a Green Group perspective, we have really, really benefited from the peer mentor that we've had. And it's certainly given us a lot of insight and knowledge and understanding. That's really helped us through this process. But also, when it talked about whether there should be a broader emphasis on all member training and development, did you have anything specifically in mind about where that member training and development needs to be, or is that something that will be very much led sort of by us as members? So just a question around that, please.
Who wants to respond to that?
Just my initial response, first of all. We have already had a conversation with group leaders around peer mentors, and I've confirmed that there's a commitment from many group leaders to carry on with that peer mentoring, and I've been in discussion with the Local Government Association to continue with that. I totally support, and I've asked Rachel, Neil and others to look at an overhaul of our member development. I think at the moment there's a huge list and array of various programs, courses. I want all members to be more involved around things like peer reviews. I want members to be more engaged with some of the external, some of the national work across what the local government sector offers. I think we need to be clear around what's mandatory and what's not. We've also touched on earlier around the LGA corporate parenting. And actually, I think there's an urgent need for all members to be engaged around corporate parenting with the team. So I think there's a number of aspects. I want to see more of a structured programme. If you're chairing meetings, some of the financial aspects, the cabinet have stepped up well in terms of the administration and seeking a lot of support and assistance, which is really helpful. And Eleanor and I and Andrew had a conversation with the LGA recently, and we've also asked them to step up a bit as well in terms of their support, and they have given some extra financial resources as well, which is helpful. So I think we're aligned on the thinking we could do with really overhauling our approach to our member development.
Thank you. Mr. Flockhart, did you want to add to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, members. It's good to be here. On the member development question, it's really, really good to see interest in this issue. That's partly because there's been change in this chamber, and there's been change in administration. And in response to Councillor Jones's earlier question, I think you're all aware that there's a third administration in 8 months here, so rapid change in roles. But the key point is that it's really great to hear there's an interest in member development. There are a couple of reasons why that's really, really important. The first is that the issues excuse me, members, for having my back to some of you. The first is that the issues and challenges that you all face individually and collectively, the council, are extremely large. They're also very complicated. None of the big issues that you're facing exist in isolation from each other. Most of them are related to each other. For example, the discussion this evening on the housing strategy clearly has links to other strategies and policies that you're responsible for. So these are complex issues in themselves. The other part of it is actually the process you use collectively, the processes you use collectively to get on top of those issues, to understand them and come up with policies and strategies that are effective. Those processes need to be fit for purpose, and they need to be well led and well managed by you as elected members in your various roles as leader, executive, overview and scrutiny, and indeed in the regulatory functions that you're responsible for. So getting those things right on behalf of your public are really important, and member development contributes to both of those key things: understanding the complexity and scale of the challenges, and then managing process that enables you to get on top of those issues rather than them being on top of you. So I welcome the interest in member development. I concur with the Chief Executive's comments. This is all being reviewed now. We do need a structured programme that supports you in the most effective way possible. And in addition to the recent meeting the Chief Exec and I had with the LGA, we're meeting with them again tomorrow, and understand they're attending the panel meeting tomorrow, so we can take this forward then. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further questions? Councillor Skip, I can't say, Skipstead. Yes.
That's right, thank you. Just regarding 4.3.2 electoral arrangements, I would just like to know whether there is any whether there's any idea about when we should be deciding about all-out elections. Is it going to come up? Would it be presented at full council? What's the thoughts on that? Thank you.
I wasn't surprised by the recommendation. We haven't got any fixed timescales on it. We haven't been asked by government to look at this, but I think it's a view, and they've maintained that view throughout the last 2.5 years working with the council around that we need to at some point continue to explore all-out elections. I will give that some thought collectively with the team around when we're obviously with Director of Legal and Governance around when we bring that in for debate with group leaders.
Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just about the section on no overall control and some of the previous reports. When we had the transition to the Peterborough First administration, I feel that the panel were a bit skittish about the arrangement and the fact that it was 11 councillors taking control of the council, albeit with some express opinions from opposition leaders to say that they were supportive and were looking to work very closely with that leadership. And I think as time went on, the panel expressed that actually this was working really quite well, leading to the remarkable achievement that was the passing of the budget. You've now commented on the new administration with 19 councillors, but no formal agreements in place. And I just wanted to know if you could kind of flesh that out a little bit and tell me, or tell us, more to the point, what advice you've got to the Labour administration in terms of how they kind of will sort that out in terms of that they've got 19, that they're short of a majority, and what they could be maybe putting in place to shore that up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I don't recognise this word skittish that you used. The reason that the first part of your question, the reason the panel was sceptical about initially about the likely prospects of an administration led by a group of 11 winning the support of a chamber of 60 was that there wasn't another council in the country led by an administration of 11 with a council of 60. So that's why we were a little sceptical. But you're right to say, and I'm happy to repeat the panel's praise for the council and for that administration in securing a unanimous agreement for the budget. And what underlay that was, I believe, and I hope all of you recognise this, was a willingness from everybody in the council chamber to work together in a collaborative way. We understand politics is a big part of this process, but to collaborate in the best interests of the whole of the city, everybody signed up for that through that period, and that enabled the Peterborough First-led administration to succeed for that 6-month period. It was a 6-month life for that administration. Now, the same principles apply to the new Labour-led administration. The arithmetic's slightly different, but I say to all of you, it's all your responsibility to work together, and that means at times supporting the administration and providing some test and challenge, as indeed has been happening this evening, to that administration. So this is about the informal way councils work as well as the formality. And I just put it to all of you that you think constructively about how you collaborate where you need to and where you make political points also when you need to. And that's what will enable this city council to continue the progress that it is making, I've got to accept, in very difficult circumstances.
Councillor Harper.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was my turn. I just wanted to really point out, probably as a caution, that going to 4 yearly elections doesn't mean that you're going to get overall control still. We could be in exactly the same position now. We've had a 4-year all out. So I think to put too much faith in that is something we could be blinded by. I think the idea of no over control is actually very good. It improves democracy, improves collaboration, because as we've now got with nationally, we could have things pushed on us and are doing this week that in no way on earth do we want them to happen in this country, majority of us, but they're going to happen because they've got a massive majority. Massive majorities do not make good democracy, so be careful what we wish for. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Yeah, do you want to answer?
I think the comment from the panel isn't around majority. Actually, no over control. I think this council's been some fantastic, excellent collaboration. The issue is more stability and the distraction that elections can cause when we're trying to develop longer term thinking. And that's the issue I think the panel are making, not around the no over control or majority point. And actually, I think there's been some, we saw that at FSWG last night. There's been some really good collaboration, contributions, suggestions on a whole range of fronts. But more than happy to have further conversations on that.
Councillor Jamil.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to give credit to Councillor Fitzgerald. I think what saved us from going into special measure, or what you want to call it, was the fact that he introduced the FSWG. I think that focused all of us to work together, which is, I think, probably a first in the country to work in that direction. And it's also showed us how a council where you've not got overall control can work. I know that's on financial matters, but I think we can probably look at working at ways in other directions as well. But for that, I've got to give credit to Councillor Fitzgerald, and I just think that we've worked well, and it's the basis of that working well, and the basis of where we are today is the work that we do on that FSWG.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you want to respond to that?
I think purely that I totally agree. We emphasised that last night. The FSWG collaboration has been right at the centrepiece. It's quite an informal mechanism. It's not heavy on governance and reports, but we really test out our thinking, ideas, collaboration and input from all councillors. And just to emphasise, we work with all councillors in this chamber to represent and push what's in the interest of the city. So I agree, FSWG is a great model, and we perhaps need to apply that for some of the other meetings that we have as well.
Anyone else? Councillor Jones.
Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree and thank Councillor Fitzgerald and agree with what Councillor Jamil and Matt has just said. I think there is also a danger, and this echoes of the past, which I truly hope we're moving past, is where we have this seen it, done it, got the T-shirt, and it's already been done. We all know, we're all old enough to know now, there's nothing new under the sun. Okay, there's what we need, in my opinion, is to have keep, whether we have the improvement panel with us or whether they fade into the background next year, as I sincerely hope they can for our and their sake. I think the major thing is we just need to keep looking at everything with fresh eyes and not think that it's been tried before, because it did cause problems in the past, but I hope that that is going to be behind us. And if we do think we've seen it before, let's look at it in a different way. And there are other issues that are coming up for the council, and we need to be mindful of those as well. So fingers crossed for all of us here now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Fitzgerald, did you want to?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't sure whether there was summing up on the actual document or it's still questions, or whether I could ask questions.
I was going to ask you to sum up.
Well, I'll sum up then if nobody else has got another question, and then allow Councillor Jones to make his points. Thank you for the kind comments to Councillor Jones and Jamil. It's exactly what I've been saying for all the years I've been in this council and when I took over as leader, it was a tricky time. And I have to thank Andrew Flockhart for his confidence in me at the time to avoid that intervention from government, because that's how close it was. And for the 2 years, or whatever it was that I was leader of the council, it was about collaboration. And I take the praise that the panel put on me, and I accepted it. And I was really proud of that work we did collectively together. And of course, the budget got passed this year. In essence, it was our budget, apart from the Dementia Resource Centre. I won't take credit for that one. But you know what I'm talking about. But it is an achievement because, again, I used to criticise former Councillor Sanford, who said it's not our responsibility to approve the budget. It's yours. You're the administration. And no matter how many times we put the boxing gloves on, he wouldn't accept that actually it's a universal responsibility. Thank you, Councillor Hong. I had a brain freeze for a moment. I think it's the heat in here, and I'm missing the Morettis who are calling me from afar. So it is a collective responsibility, and of course we do have political differences. But I was also not only the architect of the FSWG, because what we had before, whatever it was called, didn't work. I was also the architect of the improvement panel, which wasn't forced upon us. It was Gillian Beasley and I that set about this process of how do we improve the council. And I think it was me before we changed that said to Matt, no, we must continue with the panel. And also on elections, folks, you don't need elections to change an administration. You just all need to fall out with each other. So we didn't have a change of administration during the election. But people come back together, and we've coalesced, and we do come back together because we have to work for the common good. So, Dennis, you could sit in that chair, but you've always got to look over your shoulder, because when you're in a minority administration, it's a bit like being a centre forward. You've got the ball, some bugger wants it off you. That's what it's like, whether it's in your own group or whether it's in the wider council chamber. But I'm pleased to support the report, and I'm happy that the good work continues, guided by Eleanor, Andrew, and the rest of the team, and of course the officers. But I come back to where I started, Dennis. The straitjacket remains, or where you're sitting in that seat, because we've had a change around again. Everybody's confused. It's no different sitting there than it was sitting there. But now you're responsible, and it's you that gets the flak. But we all have to, which is why I wasn't going to tonight start pointing fingers. We are where we are. Nothing will change. You know, the financial pressure we're facing in the budget in the coming year is substantial. And it seems it never ends, but we do make progress. The problem is, let's hope government, and I hope government, waves the magic wand and gives us the, however much we're missing this year, 10 million so far or whatever it is. Let's hope so. But I will shut up because I want to get the meeting over because everybody's hungry and thirsty. But thank the panel, thank the report for the report, and everybody for all the hard work they're doing to make this council a better council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, and thank you for standing as well. Councillor Jones, did you want to conclude?
I shall reciprocate and stand up, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you to the LGA. One of the things I've done since becoming a councillor is I've availed myself freely of any LGA training, and my track record speaks of that, and I recently completed the Leadership Academy. Why? Because nobody's got the monopoly on wisdom, and as we came up with one of the questions, we have needed help. And we also need help in terms of the budget. That remains. The pressure remains, whoever, you're absolutely right, Wayne, whoever sits in this seat. Two things that struck me, and if you do get a chance to go on LGA training, I cannot commend it highly enough because it's tailored to our needs. The other thing is, two things came about. There isn't a single person that I've met who's been on LGA training, whatever their political hue, that didn't come in to make their world and our world a better place. Despite what some people think and whatever they, you know, we're all lazy, we're all on the take, we're all in it for ourselves, whatever, you know, I can assure you that you look at me, and I think everybody in this chamber, I know everybody in this chamber, that's not the case. The other thing as well is often what I've found, and if it's any consolation, the biggest problems I've come across when networking with other people is the biggest problems they have are within their own parties. Isn't it somewhat ironic? So the thing is, and there is an old saying, I come from a commercial background, and there was an old saying, what happens if we train our people and they leave? And the counter to that is, what happens if we don't train them and they stay? Yeah? And the thing is one of the things that behoves us all, we need to open up, we need to be part of something grander. Thank you to the improvement panel, for lifting our eyes. Yes, this is but one seat, but there's 60 here. And whether we like it or not, we're all in this together. And I appreciate what the improvements panel said, and I appreciate the work of the officers. And just in closing is just for all of us is take advantage of what lies in front of us, but not be, don't be blind to the issues that face us, but don't be blind to all the good stuff that we're bringing together, have done, and I hope will continue, irrespective of who sat in this seat. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Is that agreed, or would we go to the vote? Wow. I think that's the record. Every item agreed on the agenda. I don't remember ever that happening before. Fantastic, wonderful. We move on to item 14 then. It's just an update on Children's Improvement Board. There's no discussion or questions or anything like that, but I would like to I'd like to exercise my discretion as Mayor to invite Councillor Cole to update Council on the Children's Improvement Plan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you will be aware, an improvement board was established last year to lead improvements in children's services. Our improvement journey in children's services is of vital importance to all of us in this chamber, and so at each full council meeting, I'll be bringing an update on the progress. The last meeting of the board took place on the 19th of June. In addition to myself and the leader of the council, Councillor Dennis Jones, Councillor John Howard as chair of the Corporate Parenting Committee, and Councillor Heather Skibstead as chair of the Children Education Scrutiny Committee have joined the board. Following the information shared at Improvement Board, I'm pleased to be able to update you on the progress of the relocation of the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, or MASH, to Peterborough. It was previously sited at Police Headquarters in Hinchingbrook. The MASH will now be based on the second floor of San Martin House, and it is expected that all works will be finished by mid-July. Children's Services will move in shortly afterwards, followed by partners from health and the police over the summer. This will ensure that there is better local partnership working and stronger focus on Peterborough's children. The Improvement Board also heard that work has commenced with Leeds Relational Practice Centre as part of a sector-led improvement offer, and an initial session with the Children's Extended Leadership Group was received well. This programme is about working with families on a strengths-based approach and strengthening our approach to working with families. Since Improvement Board met in June, I'm delighted to be able to share that the Peterborough Family Valued Programme has now formally launched with a plan for training and development of all staff and partners to start from the autumn. The leader has also mentioned this, including what the programme is looking to achieve in his announcements this evening. I can also now share that a decision has been made to separate our Safeguarding Partnership Board from Cambridgeshire County Council and establish a new Peterborough Children's Safeguarding Partnership. Children's service leaders are working closely with partners in health and the police to implement this. This is important as it will give that much needed focus to Peterborough's children and families. A corporate parenting peer review took place on the 17th and 18th of July, which included the LGA, a counsellor and director of children's services from another local authority reviewing the service for children in care and care leavers. This process is designed to support the Council's performance by identifying areas of strength and areas for development. We are awaiting the findings, and once we have received them, we will be implementing their action plan. You may already be aware that Children's Services will be receiving an Ofsted monitoring visit on the 30th and 31st of July with a focus on the care leaving service. This will involve 2 inspectors over 2 days and will be informed by reviews of case files, analysis of our performance, and interviews with staff, care leavers, and parents. Work is already underway to prepare for the logistics of the visit and to provide Ofsted with the documents requested as part of their inspection framework. Finally, I would like to personally thank all the staff in Children's Services for their continued dedication and passion to delivering services for children and families, and their commitment to making rapid improvement in a number of areas.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Thank you, councillors. That ends the meeting. Go home and go safe, or go wherever you're going and go safe.